Chapter 2.4 notes. By the end of this video, you should be able to solve equations with variables on both sides. So, example 1, what you want to do every time you're solving an equation is to identify your variable. So, I have an x and an x there. So, one variable, but it's in two different spots. I have 5x and then I have 2x on the other side of the equation. What I need to do is make them be on the same side of the equation. Just like before, if you want to move something across the equal sign in an equation, you're going to do the opposite. So we're going to subtract 2x and we get 3x plus 2 equals 14. Now we want to get x by itself. Again, your x is here. So I'm going, with the order of operations, I would multiply by 3 and then add 2. If I'm going to solve, I'm going to do the opposite of the order of operations. So subtract 2 first, and then divide both sides by 3. So you get x equals 4. Guided practice number 1. Again, you have a variable here and a variable here. I want you to use what you just learned in example 1 and try to do this on yourself. I will give you the answer in just a second. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is subtract 4k to move it to the left hand side with the 7k. And you end up with 3k plus 2 equals negative 10. Subtract 2 from both sides and you get 3k equals negative 12. Then you're going to divide by 3 to get k by itself, so you get k equals negative 4. Okay, example 2, using an equation with variables on both sides. It says it takes a graphic designer 1.5 hours to make one page of a website. Using new software, the designer could complete each page in 1.25 hours, but it takes 8 hours to learn the software. How many web pages would the designer have to make in order to save time using the new software? So we want to figure out when 1.5 hours per web page is equal to 1.25 hours per web page plus the 8 hours it takes you to learn the new software. So I wrote my equation. Now you have variables on both sides again, p and p. So we're going to subtract 1.25p and we get 0.25p equals 8. Then you're going to divide both sides by 0.25 and you get p equals 32. So it would take 32 web pages for you to start saving time with the new software. Guided practice number 2, an office manager spent $650 on a new energy-saving copier that will reduce the monthly electric bill for the office from $112 to $88. In how many months will the copier pay for itself? So we've got monthly electric bill, so it's going to be $112 per month. And we're trying to figure out when that's going to equal $88 per month with the $650 cost of the copier added on. So again, we have a variable here and here, so I need to get them together. If they're already on the same side, you just add, but they're on opposite sides, so we're going to have to do the opposite. Positive 88, the opposite of that's going to be negative 88 or minus 88. And then I get 112 minus 88, which is going to give me 24. M equals 650. Then if I divide both sides by 24 to get M by itself, I get M equals 27.08. So it's going to be about 27 months. Moving on to example 3. Sometimes you're given grouping symbols in your equation. When you have grouping symbols, meaning the parentheses, you have to get rid of them before you can do anything else. So in this case, I can't add inside the parentheses, so I'm going to distribute across the parentheses to get rid of them, and I get 10x minus 2 equals 3x plus 33. Now you will notice that you have a variable, and they're on a variable on both sides of the equation. So what you want to do is move one of them to the other side. So I'm going to always try to move the one on the right to the left. So let's subtract 3x, and we get 7x minus 2 equals 33. Here's my variable. I'm multiplying by 7 and then subtracting 2. So the opposite of that is going to be add 2. And then divide by 7. And we get x equals 5. Guided practice number 3, I'm going to do the first one with you. So I have grouping symbols. I have to get rid of them. If you can't add inside the parentheses, you're going to have to distribute. So I get 8y plus 4 equals, distribute on the other side, and you get 2y minus 26. I have two different variables, or two of the same variable, so I have to move them to the same side of the equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides, and that's going to move that to the other side, and I get 6y plus 4 equals negative 26. Make sure the sign stays with the number. Okay, if you subtract 4, you get 6y equals negative 30, and then divide both sides by 6, so you get y equals negative 5. Try guided practice B, and I'll go over it in just a second. Okay, B, you're going to have to distribute because you have the grouping symbols, and you can't add within the grouping symbols. So I get 28 minus 7a equals 3a minus 12. You have two different a's, so I need to move them. They're on opposite sides, so I'm going to have to do the opposite to move them, and I get 28 minus 10a equals negative 12. Subtract 28, and I get negative 10a equals negative 30. Divide both sides by negative 10, and I get a equals 3. Example 4. These are identities and equations with no solution, but we're going to solve them like we have been solving all the other equations. So on the left-hand side, I have no grouping symbols for this first equation. But on the right-hand side, I have the parentheses, so I'm going to have to distribute to get rid of them. And I get 10x plus 12 equals 10x plus 12. If you are paying attention to what you're doing, at this point you'll notice something funny about your equation. If you're not paying attention, you'll try to get your x's on the same side by subtracting, and you get 0x plus 12 equals 12. And 0 times x is just 0, so that's really just 12 equals 12. 12 equals 12 is a true statement. It's always true. So your answer is going to be all real numbers, because it wouldn't matter what number you plugged in for x, you would still get a true statement, because the two sides of the equation are actually equal. B, I don't have any grouping symbols, but I do have like terms on the same side of the equal sign, so I need to combine those first. So I'm going to do negative 3m plus 12m. And I get 9m minus 4 equals 9m plus 5. when you have the exact same number sign and variable on opposite sides of the equal sign, like here I have 9m and 9m, they're actually going to cancel, and you end up with -4 equals 5, which is never true, which means it wouldn't matter what I plugged in for my variables up here, nothing would work. That means that I have no possible solution to that problem. So my answer is no solution. You can write out the words no solution, or you can draw a circle with a line through it. Guided practice number 4, I want you to pause the video, try those on your own, and I'll go over the answers in just a second. Okay, for your grouping symbols, you need to distribute, so you get 12b minus 6 equals -6 plus 12b. You have positive 12b on opposite sides of the equal sign, so those are actually going to cancel, and you get -6 equals -6, which is a true statement, and it means that my answer is all real numbers. This symbol is the symbol for the set of real numbers. Guided practice B, I'm actually going to let you omit because it's the same as guided practice number 3B. I guess I forgot to change the problem. Alright, at the bottom of the page we have a little graphic organizer that I want to go over. It's a good rule of thumb to follow when you're solving equations. The first thing you want to do is use the distributive property to eliminate the grouping symbols. That's the first thing you're always going to look to do in an equation. Now this is just a rule of thumb because you don't always have grouping symbols that you have to eliminate. And while you're doing that, you need to also eliminate fractions or decimals if you can. First thing you want to do, get rid of the grouping symbols, get rid of the fractions or decimals. Step 2, you're going to combine like terms on each side of the equation. To combine all the like terms on the left, and then combine all like terms on the right. Step number 3, use the properties of equality to get variable terms on one side and constants on the other. So get variable terms on one side. That's just the numbers with the variable, and constant term on the other. Constant terms are the numbers themselves. Step number 4, you're going to use the properties of equality to solve for the variable. So that means if you're adding to x, you're going to use the subtraction property of equality to solve for the variable. You're going to do the opposite, and you're going to do the same thing to both sides. And the last thing you need to do is to check your solution, and that's going to be plug it in. Okay, do these 4 questions on your own. Show every bit of your work. If you don't, you're not going to get credit for it. Obviously, if you're not watching the video right now, you won't know that I said that anyway. So why are you turning in homework? But anyway, do these 4 questions on a separate sheet of paper. Show every bit of your work. Write down the question. Show every single step and give me the answer. And then bring it to me tomorrow for proof you did your homework.